The final score, Yeovil Town 1, Wrexham 2, a huge win this. And just think about it, we've won 8 of our last 10 away games, and the 2 that we didn't win were an away match to a higher division team when we were winning a quarter of an hour left, and an away match to Notts County where we started superbly but then had this player sent off within the first 10 minutes which conditioned the match. So gosh, it's not bad away form, that is it? Let's be honest. This was an interesting one. There have been a few wins like this where it was a bit of a, should we say half and half performance? Maybe two-thirds performance. Wrexham in the first half hour didn't do well, but roused themselves last 10 minutes of the first half and were a better team in the second half. Yeovil are in poor form. Didn't play like that, but maybe you might argue did defend like that. Anyway, Wrexham made 2 changes. Carmi Thomas made his first league start of the season up front in place of Jordan Ponticelli, and Max Cleworth went back down to the bench for Harry Lennon coming in and the defence. And started badly, could have been behind after 2 minutes, although none of Yeovil's long throwers, and they've got a few to choose from. I've got a range of Tozer. They can propel dangerous stuff in. One of them was slung into the near post, was flicked on by Jordan Davis across the face of his goal, and Laneson had to do really well to get down low to his left, lunge to push the ball away from danger. In the 8th minute, Davis got his head on another long throw, this time the right side of the pitch. Tozer throwing it in, Davis getting up and flicking the ball across the face of goal. Nobody could get on the end of it. Just before the 10-minute mark, we had a warning of what was soon to come when the right-sided player Knowles came inside and from 10 yards out tried to put the ball on the top right corner but couldn't find the target. And although Wrexham went close to opening the scoring a couple of minutes later, a free kick on the edge of the area, Jordan Davis hitting it well, just flicked off a head in the wall and deflected just wide at the top left corner. In the 14th minute, Yeovil took the lead. It was a poor goal to concede, really. Knowles took a throw-in on the right-hand side, short, ran round the back of the player he'd thrown to and received the ball, and then came in and from 25 yards hit a left-footed shot which went into the bottom right corner. Wrexham didn't put enough pressure on him at all. Laneson, I think on sight is maybe sort of slightly caught out by it, but to be fair, if he's unsighted, he can't blame it. The real issue is that we allowed them the space on the edge of our area to tee up a shot like that, and that rocked us a little bit. Although we did have a moment of hope soon afterwards, Davis putting in a really good cross, Thomas unmarked 6 yards out, putting it over the bar. The flag did go up for offside, but had he timed his run right, he probably would have arrived at the right time to head the ball in. There wasn't an awful lot from Wrexham. Yeovil were the better side, and like I said, in the first 30-35 minutes, moved the ball around very well. They may have slightly caught us out. They play 4-3-3. They lined it up slightly differently from normal, though. Low Everton was on the left. He was excellent when they won at the racecourse earlier this season. He's very mobile and he was drifting all over the place. Wakefield, who's usually a good strong ball carrier going forwards to the left, was playing through the middle, gave him a bit more physicality, but those two particularly were very fluent in their exchanging of positions. Knowles on the right, sticking there more, but Worthington, the right side of midfielder, who is creative, was getting up and going beyond Knowles quite often, and that fluency of movement was good. Their pressing was good at the racecourse, it was good in this game, and Wrexham trying to knock long balls towards Carmi Thomas didn't really work. We also could have been punished when we tried to pass the ball through the press when Tozer, I beg your pardon, that was the start of the second half, ignore the last sentence. They had an opportunity when Tozer was racing back towards goal and overhit a back pass to Laneson, who managed to get a foot on it but could only give it straight to Worthington. A 3-on-1 break. Worthington played the correct ball to put Wakefield clear with what looked like the simplest of opportunities, one-on-one with Laneson, and he topped his shot, and Laneson was able to get down low to his right and save it. He shouldn't have even been able to see it. Then a free kick half cleared. Low Everton driving in a ball to the far post, and Staunton, the centre-back, unmarked in the 6-yard box, somehow contrived to head the ball over. 2 glorious opportunities there for Yeovil. And although Wrexham did make an attempt, With 10 minutes and a half left, as we started to do better, Young finding Davis, who did really well to get a shot off on the turn, but couldn't keep it down. It was actually Yeovil who threatened right at the end of the half in added time, when again Lou Everton was creative. He found Wakefield 15 yards out in the left channel, and he went for the top right corner and put it a bit too high. But Wrexham had shown a bit more promise in those last 10 minutes. The midfield looked to be playing a little bit high up the pitch. We were getting the wing backs in. The system Yeovil were employing was effective, but it did leave them vulnerable to quick switches, and we started to get them working, started to get Hosanna and Hall Johnson into the game a little bit more. We didn't really succeed in getting Thomas and Mullen into the game, though, to be honest. A bit too much of a distance between them and our midfield. And because of that, possibly, although also Thomas did take a couple of heavy whacks, including one in the face from the keeper accidentally with that offside chance, Thomas came off at half-time and Jordan Ponticelli came on, and Ponticelli made an instant impact. There were two things that felt different from the very start of the second half. One was that Ponticelli, different type of attacker, was really putting himself around, was a real presence, and clearly was troubling the Yeovil defence. And the second thing was that we clearly had identified the gap between their left-back and left-sided centre-back as something to exploit. Constantly, Hayden would just hit early balls into that right channel, and we were away and causing problems. And suddenly the boot was on the other foot. Yeovil continued to look quite inventive and cute going forwards, but really, in all honesty, after the incident I'm about to describe, the one I tried to describe about a minute ago and then pulled back from, they didn't create another real chance until added time. That opportunity actually came straight from the kick-off, and it was the mistake I was referring to by Tozer, who played a really sloppy ball on the edge of his area, again, to give the ball to Worthington, who again worked it inside to Wakefield in a fantastic position, and on this occasion he just couldn't get the ball properly under control, and Wrexham were able to push him away from goal without him getting a shot off. Having said that, Yeovil then spent the best part of 2 minutes in and around our penalty area probing and pushing, and we had to stand firm to stop them from breaking through. However, we did stand firm, and from then on, as I said, we bossed the second half. Our tempo was much better, and like I said, we'd found ways to trouble Yeovil. The first ball down that right channel led in the end to Young picking it up across from the right-hand side, swinging it into the far post. Ponticelli got it really well to win his header and nod it down into the goal mouth, and the keeper Smith had to rush off his line to beat Mullen to it in the 6-yard box. Then Hall Johnson again playing it down the right channel. Great ball, sent Mullen away from a tightish angle. He drove the ball powerfully across the keeper, and it just scraped the far post. Frustration for the striker, but he'd make up for it in the 59th minute. It was okay. It's a controversial goal, but frankly, the controversy is all of Yeovil's making. When you see the highlights, you'll see exactly what I mean. I've also put a Twitter thread up to illustrate this. Yeovil have complained, and Darren Sarll, the manager, after the match, has made a long 6-minute complaint in his post-match interview about this. Oh, he talks about other stuff, alright, I've got to be fair, but he's wrong about this goal. The referee, Sonny Gill, someone we had previous with, of course, he gave that crazy penalty against us at Eastleigh last season when James Horsfield cleared the ball for the line and he was penalised for high kicking. Was spot on this occasion. So basically what happened, ball's bobbling around in midfield, and Dale Gorman, the midfielder for Yeovil, is waiting for the ball to come down to head it. Ponticelli is behind him and jumps to try to win the ball. Gordon goes down holding his face. Now, Sarl's version of this is that the referee should have stopped the game. In fact, in his words, the referee should think very carefully about allowing players of head injuries not to be treated, and that he was going to report him. Okay, now, when you look at the footage, you'll see very clearly Ponticelli's nowhere near his head. He brushes his arm. There's a good, at the closest point, it's a good 6 inches between Gorman and Ponticelli. Gorman's head and Ponticelli. They said he was cut. Well, if he was cut, it wasn't from that. So he stayed down, chose to stay down. Sarll complained that Mullen would have been coming into the area that Gorman had been covering if he had been taking part in the move. Well, he doesn't need to have that conversation with Sonny Gill. I think he needs to have that conversation with Gorman, because Gorman stayed down for a very long time holding his face. The referee was close to it, obviously saw there was no contact and continued play. Yeovil did get the ball back briefly. Whether they could have put the ball out of play is a moot point, because they won it back under pressure in the centre of the pitch. Although it's got to be said that Knowles then, as Hall Johnson went in with what looked like a wild challenge from behind, took a spectacular dive. Hall Johnson coming in from behind, dangerous angle to come in from, but did actually win the ball, and Knowles flopped really spectacularly, but again right in front of the ref, who again waved play on. Knowles decided to double down on his dive and stayed down. So you have two Yeovil players down, one of whom definitely has dived. The other one, well, if he is hurt on his head, I don't understand how. They've both stayed down. Wrexham break. Hosanna does well to retrieve the ball on the left-hand side. Pulls it back to Mullen, 15 yards out. And he does the rest. Gets onto his right foot. Lovely hooked finish into the far top corner. Brilliant finish by Mullen. Wrexham really got their tails up now. Yeovil went nuts. But, like I said, apart from the sort of anger of expecting people to kick the ball because your player's gone down, they have no grounds for anything, I've got to say. Wrexham then, halfway through the second half, lost another player. I was slightly annoyed by this. Bryce Hosanna clearly pulled a muscle. Looked like it might be his thigh, judging by the way he was being treated. Gorman, when the referee allowed physio to come on, Gorman started windmilling so wildly I thought his arms might come off. And then Gorman, did I say Gorman? Sarles, I was waving his arms. Gorman came up, the player who had the head injury, and tried to pick Hosanna up, even though he just tried to get up and then collapsed. And Ponticelli, his body language was horrified as he sprinted across. He was clearly really worried about Hosanna. So I was impressed with that, if I'm honest with you, from Yeovil. Anyway, Hosanna clearly had to come off. And interestingly, it was Liam McAlinden coming on, his first sample of league action since he got sent off against Yeovil very softly, a result which conditioned that match. I don't recall Yeovil complaining about the injustice of that one. Anyway, McAlinden, like Ponticelli, would make a massive, massive impact as Wrexham pushed on. Firstly, though, Wrexham had a half chance from a throw, which Tozer slung into the goal mouth as ever. Hayden touched it on brilliantly, and it was blocked underneath the bar before the 79th minute Wrexham got the goal. I know this is going to sound odd, but it was a really good own goal. Can't blame the defender, Morgan Williams, for it, but the build-up was excellent. McAlinden was really busy, buzzing up and down the left-hand side. It was very bold, I thought, of Phil Parkinson to put him on as a wing-back when he could have been more conservative. But to be frank, when the score was 1-1, Wrexham had the body language of a team going for the win, and Yeovil were trying to slow things down on restarts, so we were very positive. McAlinden certainly played his part in the goal, broke down the left-hand side, whipped a terrific cross across the face of goal. Ponticelli couldn't reach it. Jordan Davis did wonderfully at the far post, arriving about 4 yards out, but not in it with the shooting angle, and managed to make great contact on a half volley with the outside of his left foot to prod it with pace back in the goal mouth. There were two Wrexham players waiting for the tap in, and Williams, lunging towards his own goal, had to try and play it and could do nothing but knock it past his goalkeeper from point blank range, and Wrexham had the lead. And again, to be fair, rather than sit back, Wrexham pushed on and looked for a third and were unlucky not to get one. There was a nice interchange when Mullen was able to break away and find Young. Young smashed an 18-yarder shot which was blocked, and then from the resulting throw-in the ball came back again to Young, who slammed it from 18 yards out, and it just whistled over the bar, inches in it, so close to his first goal of the season. In the 88th minute we went closer again. Another free kick for Davis to take, this time as he ran into that right channel again and was cynically pulled to the ground. A yellow card to Williams just outside the box, and Davis ripped it over the wall. Smith got down low to his left and managed to push it back into the goal mouth, where Hall Johnson took a touch from a tight angle but only a couple of yards out, went for power and smashed it against the post. The ball flew across the face of goal to safety. It's desperately close. In added time, Wrexham kept Yeovil at arm's length. They looked pretty comfortable. There were a couple of balls into the box, the best of which was driven to the near post, and Adi Yusuf, no, not Folkestone's Adi Yusuf, who scored past us last week, that other Adi Yusuf, who'd just come on, tried to get to it at the near post and couldn't. Leighton received this and took a quick throw out to the right-hand side. Wrexham broke away dangerously. Ponticelli pulling the ball back, and Davis from the edge of the area hitting a powerful shot. Tremendous piece of work to poke the ball just wide of his own goal by Little. It was a great hit by Young and an excellent block. But for a corner, Wrexham spent 2 minutes keeping the ball in that corner with throw-ins and free kicks, and the final whistle went, and the amazing travelling army of over 800 Wrexham fans got their just desserts. Brilliant win for Wrexham. Looking through the performances, again, Leighton didn't have all that much to do. Made that important sprawling save early on. But to be honest, and I do take Sal's point when he said that they made chances to kill the game off. They did. Near the end of the first half, they had that Staunton free header, which he should have put on target. And they also had another opportunity. Then they were the 3-on-1, which Leighton saved well, but I think you'd probably expect to save. But yeah, they didn't take their chances. Leighton wasn't overly worked. The centre-backs, I want to point Tozer out, who was outstanding, but made 2 huge errors. I don't know quite how you quantify that performance. He made the mistake when he hit the overhit pass to Leighton, which led to a 3-on-1, and then he made that mistake right at the start of the second half, where he gave the ball away on the edge of his area. Apart from those 2 pretty big howlers, he was so authoritative. He was winning everything in the air. He was strong, he was dominant, he was terrific. But he could have cost us 2 goals. Strange one to quantify. Hayden was solid and started pumping those balls down the right channel and became an important outlet for us. On the left-hand side, again, Lennon did well. He had a lot of movement to contend with on that side of the pitch, but his pace and solidity helped him to deal with that. So the back three, I thought, did well. The midfield struggled a bit early on as Yeovil worked the ball about. Their movement was good. They were dropping off between the lines between defence and midfield, and it was pulling our midfield back. And when they weren't profiting from that space, they were at least forcing our midfield into a position where they couldn't really influence the game and try and take the initiative. But then Wrexham did start to take that initiative. As I said, the midfield did step up a bit more, and for the last hour, all 3 of them did very well. Young was tireless in his hard work, constantly working, and trying to make things happen as well. Had a couple of decent shots. Davis, again, the player who tries to create, and in the second half, particularly in these away games, as the games get stretched, he really starts punishing the side. The number of creative balls forward he played was pleasing. I want to single out James Jones as well, because his work rate is exceptional, as it always is, to be fair. He did a lot of the ugly, scrappy stuff that you don't notice so much in a game. An awful lot of continuity play, an awful lot of taking difficult balls, bobbling around all over the place and taming them, giving them back to a defender just to keep possession. A lot of hard work covering people, a lot of good decoy runs for Hall Johnson as well. I thought Jones, in a low-key way, did very well. The wing-backs, Hall Johnson, they both did very well going forwards. Hall Johnson maybe had a little bit more threat than Hosanna, perhaps. Shame to see Hosanna hurt. That's a bit of a concern. But yeah, maybe both of them will feel they could have got better quality into the box, but both of them got forwards a decent effect. And I wouldn't say they weren't really getting the wide players didn't have the beating of them. They were coming inside more, in all honesty, or passing around them. So defensively they were okay. And then up front, I felt sorry for Thomas. It was hard for him to get into the game. We hit long stuff at him and he was just battling away with the centre-backs. We didn't give him enough service, I think, to work on properly. And Mullen, he had to be brought into the game. He worked a good shift, but we weren't giving him good service in the first half hour. But when that changed in the second half, and of course he was decisive with that brilliant goal. Ponticelli comes on at half-time. And he and McAlinden, the 2 subs we used, both were crucial. McAlinden, like I said, bold decision to put him on, but he wasn't really tested that much defensively, and going forwards he was a real crackerjack. He was terrific, and Ponticelli immediately changed the tone of the game. His work rate fantastic. The centre-back started really getting worked by him, and he deserves an awful lot of credit for the work he did as a foil for Mullen. In the commentary, we actually made Ponticelli man of the match. We all We all had differing opinions. I was leaning towards Luke Young. Having watched the game again, oh man, my weekends, they're football. I started thinking a bit about Jordan Davis too, as well, for the way that he was prompting and playing balls forwards. But overall, who cares? Who cares who's man of the match? That's a great performance by Wrexham, a great win. They've come back from behind for the third time this season to win, and it puts us in a decent position, not only in the league table, but going into a huge day on Tuesday when some teams above us will have to drop points because they're playing against each other, and when we welcome Grimsby, one of our contenders, we need to maintain this self-belief in front of a big racecourse crowd. Remember that you can listen to live commentary of that, of course, on Wrexham Player. You can listen to Dragonheart on Friday. The podcast will be out as well on Wednesday, this podcast. And also I've been continuing the Hot Take podcasts because I take too long to think about these ones now. So the Hot Take, the quick 2-minute reaction to the game soon after it finished, so you can get a bit of a quick update on what went on. So, good old Wrexham, great result that. The final score of Yeovil Town 1, Wrexham 2. I'm Mark Griffiths from Wrexham AFC.